You're listening to the Vetted VA podcast, Your Journey Home. Nathan Nottingham is your host today, and he'll be chatting with Randy Teakell.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vetted VA podcast, Your Journey Home, where we are continuing our series, putting a focal point on the men and women that are the professionals of Vetted VA, the ones that have gone through the training, they spend the time, you'll see them in the Facebook groups, the TikTok channels, the LinkedIn once in a while, you'll see them all around. You'll see them on the website if you go to vettedva.com and you click on a map. And with me today is the notorious BIG himself, Randy Teakell. I'm just kidding. He's not that guy. Yeah. Randy's here with us. And he is based in Celina, Texas, which is north of Dallas. And he has the pride of ownership to be, I believe, the very first one done with the vetted VA testing mechanism when it first came out in May of 2020. He hopped on that test and got it done, and it was a beast at the moment. I think we still ran that thing in like 2 segments of 150 questions each. It had to be passed at 90%. And I remember one of his feedback points was, this is a bit much. we should cut it down just a little bit. But beyond that, Randy is also a man of many talents. He's an amazing copyright editor. He can edit copy and finds all the mistakes in my grammar quickly. So I run things by him sometimes just to double check. He's an amazing family man. He raises award-winning golden retrievers. I got to get my animals right. Has dwarf Nigerian goats that a special place in his heart with them, and we've bonded over. So, man, I could keep going on because I'm a huge fan of Randy Teakell, but I'll stop there. So, Randy, why don't you introduce what you want to say about yourself, and let's get going.
Well, I don't really have a whole lot to say about me. I think the biggest thing is just that I'm really grateful to be able to be a part of something that can help as many people as Vetted VA helps. And if you would have asked me, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago when I was on Facebook looking at messages and a guy needed some help on Texas law. And I told him, hey, give me a message here and we'll visit about it, that was going to turn into having an opportunity to serve tons of people. I would have been very, very pleased and surprised. But that was kind of how we got together, was answering questions and sharing knowledge, etc. And it's obviously still the thing that we're doing. And it goes in a big time both ways between everybody here. My big passion has always been to help folks get what they earned, and then just to have a platform and a forum to be able to help them navigate that properly. You know, oftentimes we navigate stuff that doesn't have anything to do with our personal gain. It is 100% helping people in states we're not licensed with, etc. And I enjoy that to no end when they come back and say, hey, you know, I was told by 4 people I couldn't do this, but now you've helped me figure out how to do it and do it properly without being taken advantage of. And to me, that's just a huge, huge thing. That also does help my family, etc. when it's all said and done. I've done a number of VA loans for military family, and you know, sometimes I guess really the way that I started in VA was quite a while ago when my brother was in. Initially, he was stationed in Celina to help him buy a house there, and then he moved stations, PCS, to a different place, and it was a state that I didn't do licensing in, and he came back and brought me a deal, and I'm like, no, this is not a good deal for you, and then help him find somebody that took better care of him, and I think that was beautiful to me whenever we had the mission here of helping people find the right people, not just education, but also to find folks that are going to hold up to the heart of what our mission is, which I think that's what it all boils down to. It's all about the heart and us being able to find someone that's willing to do. And initially, it was just a handful of us that were working
Hmm.
7 days a week, 28 hours a day, to keep things going. And I really, really enjoyed that. Obviously, we've evolved long past that into something where that there's a lot more structure, a lot more wisdom, a lot of folks that are able to help more people. I think one of the biggest things that I love about Vetted VA is the fact that, like, I hook up all my borrowers or potential borrowers with Vetted VA, and what I tell them is, obviously, I'm here for you to answer any questions that you have. But the biggest thing is, if you'll plug into Vetted VA, you're going to find questions asked that you haven't thought to ask, because there's 85,000 people on there that are asking questions, and there's a very good chance that somebody's going to ask something that you should have asked but you didn't know to ask.
That's right.
And I think that's a huge thing for us, that just being plugged in, and then just having that sense of community with folks that are serving the same way, that are built the same way, that have the same heart. That's what's important to me, and I love introducing people to it, knowing um, that they're going to be treated right when it's all said and done. And we've had some people come along through the process that didn't necessarily have the right thing, but I'll tell you, they didn't last,
Right.
because they were there for the wrong reasons, and it didn't wear well, and ultimately they didn't stay. So, not that that matters, I guess, but for me, it's a huge thing. Positive.
It is. Heart is everything. A matter, the right heart and mind to be challenged and to push back in the right way, right? But to serve in a way that's holistic and approachable, and in many ways, I think you and I've shared this many times, but you're not sure how it's going to pay you back, if it ever will, but you're going to do it regardless.
Yeah,
And in time, there seems to be enough built up of that type of goodwill, and uh, God in His infinite grace just tends to pour it back to you in the right time. So when you need it the most.
absolutely.
Randy, you came into the industry when many of us were still pretty young in the world.
Before you
So
were
you've been,
born.
well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to reconcile that one. But
Yeah,
you've been in the mortgage industry for a long time. How did you get started, and why stay in it? Because there were some ups and downs.
yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me, I got in, and I kind of eased into it from a different angle. And that originally I was doing uh, working for a sales finance branch that did all sorts of lending,
Mm,
and then ended up really loving helping people with the mortgage aspect, because we did everything at that first place that I worked. We did sales finance contracts, we did collections, we did everything. And one of the things that I really loved about that was being able to have someone that you were looking at, why they were struggling to make their payments, because you were collecting it, and being say, well, you owe everybody in the world, but you got assets that you could restructure everything and save yourself $2,800 a month in outgo. And that, whenever you do that for somebody, and take that huge pressure off of them, um, mostly now my business is purchased, but at that point in time, it was all about refinancing folks into a better position, and saving them huge amounts monthly. And that, there was no better feeling than that. And so then I got invited to come be a mortgage guy, and I've never been smart enough to quit since. That's really the biggest thing, is that from time to time, there's definitely been some major headwinds, but I still feel like that I would not get any more enjoyment out of it than anything else than this,
yeah.
period. So I've stuck with it.
Yeah, it can be a hard business. It comes and goes. It's up and down. But when you've been in it for a while and you start to build that network and that relationship, and I think that when you have the right mind for the process, and I'm trying to remember the the guy who wrote it. Oh, Simon Sinek. He wrote the Infinite Game, or the Eternal Game, or the Infinite Game. And it's like the idea being that it's not about the immediacy of the transaction, what you get today and tomorrow. it's long term. So a lot of times you give so much more than you take, and that you feel lopsided if you're thinking about the immediate return, but we're thinking long term, like long tail process. It's like, okay, yeah, everything I'm putting into this now is going to benefit much later down the road. And I think like knowing you and kind of watching what you're doing, with your pups, you've got Birdie and a couple others. Like you train and you invest so much in this training, and now these dogs have become, I mean, quite a bit renowned. Honestly, I mean, I
Sure.
don't. When I actually started looking it up, I'm like, oh, that's cute. He trains dogs. I started looking a little deeper. I went, wait a minute,
Yeah.
like this guy's he's done some deep investment on these pups that are phenomenal dogs. And I think that just goes to show your mentality on the long term play. Like you invest in people, you invest in their future, and when they know somebody cares that much and invests in them so regularly, like when we get there to the end, we celebrate, and that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Well,
What
I
are one
would
of
tell you
those?
that
Oh,
I would
go
tell
ahead.
you that on that kind of that front is that the dogs deserve they're so much better than most people give them credit for and what they can do, and our particular dogs are bred selectively for their abilities, and they deserve to be out there doing what they do and what they love, etc. And I think that goes the same with our people, is they've earned it as well, and you want to see them get what they deserve when it's all said and done. It's just
Yeah.
that's how it works. And I love. I got 3 calls this week from people that were as far back as 13 years ago that I helped, and
Mhm.
they say, "Hey, do you still do mortgages?" And I said, "Yep, I'm not smart enough to get out." So I would
Love
love
it.
to help you. And then sometimes it's all about, and that's where vetted VA comes in big time for me. Is, hey, I'm getting PCS from Texas to Timbuktu. Do you do loans there? I said, no, but I know great people there,
Yeah.
and that you can trust that will do you a great job. And I
Yeah.
love that.
Um, we often talk about in this podcast in the interviews, we ask, you learn really important lessons, that the ones that stick with you, the ones that become foundational in how you operate going forward, either through great success or even great failure. So what is a story that may come to mind when I bring that up, that can be either or both? Sometimes failure turns into success, that really was pivotal in helping you understand and execute at a higher level in your operations.
I think that's a tough question, because there's just a lot of those moments over the years as far as that goes. But I think that it's a little story. But when I was first in the business where that I was still doing everything, I had was in Louisiana, and I was working um, with a man that was struggling a little bit with his pay, and paying everybody, etc. And I was a little. We called them at 16-day lates. So if your payment was due 16 days ago, that's when they got introduced to the collection side of things.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so I picked up the phone, talked to the guy, and he was an original Cajun. I mean, like the real deal. Like, he really had a hard time understanding the accent, etc. It's beautiful French Cajun accent, and visited with him a little bit, and wanted to know how I could help him, and spent some time getting to know him, and turned out that he was one of those guys that I could save like $3,000 a month. And then the more I'd learned about him, he was a man that was in his 70s, was still working, um, and he and his wife had started helping foster children. Um, but his income was as a market fisherman. He had Social Security retirement income, so he had fixed incomes, but he also had money coming in uh, from fishing, and he would fish. And this is in southern Louisiana, and
Hmm.
then he would also run the train tracks at night and catch lizards, and he would catch 500 to 1,000 lizards a night. And running down when I say run, I mean run. He was just bent over running, catching them, because the lizards would come up to the train tracks and to the basalt, where it retained the heat
Sure.
and stuff.
Yep.
You'd come out of the swamp to warm up, And when they did that, then he would be right there to snag them, and that's how he made his money. And so the thing about it was to save this guy, $3,000 a month in his budget, and it gave him all the freedom in the world to do whatever he needed to do, and maybe relax a little bit at 72 years old. Not that he necessarily did, but it was the neat thing about him was that he showed me photos of like an alligator that he had harvested before there was alligator seasons, and we're talking about one that he had a Suburban, and it laid out side by side this photo of beside the Suburban. It was linked bumper to bumper, and uh, and so he tells the story of he and his wife tells the story that at that point in time he had a pickup truck also, and it was he and another guy and then their wives that would go at night for this alligator hunting, and they sold the skins, they sold the meat. It was all ways to make money, and and he was talking about at that point in time they shot this guy, this crocodile, the alligator between the eyes, knocked it out. They thought they killed it. Then they put it in the back, and at that point in time, it was just a single cab pickup, and the wives rode in the back with the alligator. And they at the first stop sign, his wife says, Leroy, this alligator done winked at me." And and so the next stop sign that this alligator woke up. He wasn't killed
Oh
at the
boy.
certain spot that the bullet would go through, but this guy was so big that he had like 2-inch skull, and woke up and jumped out. They had to chase him down, shoot him again, kill him again. After that, they used duct tape over the mouth.
Yeah,
But
just in case. That's right. Wow.
the way he paid me back was he there was a market for redfish that if it was over a certain limit that you couldn't sell it, and he would bring me these redfish to cook because he knew that I liked them, and they would wrap around um, a 3 foot one of those big white coolers that were like
Yep.
either 3 or 4 foot long. They would wrap around in that, and I'd have to use like a huge saw to to take that uh, to
The redfish, get through that redfish.
yeah,
Yeah.
to process it, etc.
Oh,
But the
that's
main thing was
amazing.
that gave him freedom and gave him life, and I think that was one of those pivotal moments where that you have uh, an impact on a person's life, and you just want to keep doing that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Dude, I love that. It's a great story. You spend some time now going out and teaching locally and around the area about VA loans. You've built your own courses. You teach the vet VA things. Like you spend time going and sharing your knowledge. What's one of the main topics that come up in your classes, your coursework that you find many professionals just seem to struggle with understanding, or they're stuck on old news? Like, what's that topic that just seems to resonate the most?
Well, just another story that is I had a class that I gave, and I invited a guy that it's he's a I think 20-year veteran of Celina, as a realtor, and I invited him. We go to Rotary together, etc., to come to the class so that he could get his hour of certificate uh, CE, and and he came and kind of reluctantly, but he just said, "You know what, I'm going to do it." And at the end of that, what I found out about him is that he had never offered um, he'd never offered at VA on his listings. It always,
Wow.
other things, and for 20 years he'd never offered to accept a VA on his listings. And so what happened was at the end of that hour, whatever we spent, a little bit, hour and a half after whatever, he said, "Man, I was so glad that I came to this because I've been doing it wrong for 20 years." And,
Wow.
and I say, he said, and I said, "Well, why is that? Why is it that you've been doing this wrong?" And he said, "Well, that's the way that my broker trained me 24 years ago before I became a broker." um, and uh, and obviously that's very old news, etc. And some of the things that he deals with in Celina, there's a lot of higher value properties, etc. He didn't understand the way that the Blue Water Navy Act changed this in 2019 to have no limits, etc. He didn't understand how much of an advantage that was over a conventional jumbo offer. He didn't
Yeah.
understand how much the rates are. He didn't understand that you could have more than one at a time, and all the things that we covered in that little hour and a half after questions. He was like blown away with how much that he had been wrong for 20 years. And so it's kind of like the old starfish where that you're throwing one back at a time. That was one that we threw back, and I don't know how many that will multiply through, because now he offers it on all of his listings, and he probably calls me, 3 times a month saying, "Hey, can this work this way?" And yep, absolutely can work that way. And so it's an exciting thing. Yep.
That I think that's such a sometimes these interviews we focus on one point, but I think that's such a really good example of we start something, we get trained in it, and who our trainer was. If we don't know better, to look around and say, "Gosh, I wonder what else I don't know," and
Right.
always be inquisitive and always ask the question. And we're just like, "Well, this is what I was trained in. This is how I built my business, and I'm really good at it." And you could be really good at it, but until you actually stop yourself and go, "Hey, I wonder how it could be better. What else do I not know?" Then we kind of get stuck in the same old, same old. And so I love that he even had the self awareness to say, "Gosh, I've been doing it wrong. I need to fix my ways already."
Yeah.
It's not too late to make some modifications and start doing things differently.
Right.
Things change, and if we get stuck in those old ways, man, um, yeah, the amount we can miss in lost opportunity to serve others is pretty big,
And
pretty big.
that's the beauty of Veta VA is the community that we have. And I don't know how many we have moderating now, 100 plus. Um,
Hmm.
so as a small producer where that I'm out on my own doing things, etc., that community is just so invaluable to me in that we get the opportunity within, and I know we've got a gazillion of our chats, etc., to see, here's a challenge, folks. What answers do you have? and to,
Yeah,
and to see all this wisdom that's offered that say, hey, I just did it this way with this person, etc. Try this. That's a community that is invaluable to someone that otherwise might be an island, where that
that's
we
right.
don't where that it's just me and my little operations team, and obviously I've got account executives that can help some, but I tell you that we do so much educating of account executives that for the most part we can't rely on them, they rely on us more, because I
Yep.
would tell you that I've got 4 or 5 different account executives that call me, say, hey, I just had a weird VA scenario came up and I knew you'd know the answer. I can
Yeah,
find it, I'm sure, but I know you know the answer. And that's that.
I love that, and we see it so often in locations of, now we're training Vetavia gets to actually train. Some lenders have come to us and said, "Hey, train our account executives, train our underwriters," and how hard it is to overcome habitual ways of operating.
Yeah.
It's just there's a habit in our industry because we have to move so quickly that we say it takes too much time, quote unquote, air quotes, right? Too much time to go find it for ourselves. So we ask the next person we think will know. And that person's also under a lot of stress. So they may say the last time they had to review it, what the answer was. And you could have outdated information. You could have old information. You could mishear it. You could hear
Right.
it incorrectly.
Right.
And so what better just to get super quick and efficient, going back to the sources, reading them for a minute, slowing down for a second, saying, "All right, let me apply this, let me review this." But then also on the flip side, man, how awesome it is that the AI systems are getting so much better just to go through and ask a question and cite and sources for me, help me understand, help me reason through this. Let me ask
Right.
questions and then take that dialogue and go back and go, "Hey, Randy, I
Yep.
did some research.
Right.
Does this sound right? Like, help me
Yeah.
work through is my reasoning here. Does this sound good?"
one of the
That's
things that
really
we
what makes
know
professionals.
One of the things that we know is in theory you should be able to call the ROC and get an answer, but I would also tell you that we know that if you call it 5 times you might get 5 different answers.
That
so
is true.
so that's where that having our community is just totally invaluable to be able to, as a second gap after you looked for it yourself, to be able to say, this is what I'm coming up with, what do you guys see? That's worth a gazillion billion dollars. right there.
It is, and having that, like you said, having that access point come through to at all times, being able to ask people that are in different states and different areas, "Hey, have you run into this?" I sure have. Here's the letter I got from the RLC. Okay, I'll use that letter because
Mhm.
that supports my case,
Right.
and I won't necessarily get a wrong or secondary answer. Well, Randy, as we look at kind of wrapping down here, what's like the biggest takeaway you want to leave the audience about just your service, something, I don't know, what's that one rock you want to leave behind and say, man, this is what I want y'all to know.
Just that I'm here to help folks and make sure that you get treated right through the process. I would tell you that my goal as a small independent guy is that when it's said and done, that you remember me as a 100% positive experience. It's not that we're not going to have challenges, but we're going to, a lot of times I had a boss back when I was in the corporate world that would say, you know, don't tell me about the labor, just show me the baby. And so sometimes we make that come true that way, where that you may not even know the struggles that we have, but because we've asked you all the right questions and know the right answers, that we can put it together, and save a
Mm,
lot of stresses when it's all said and done. And I think that's the biggest thing. And probably my biggest rock that I want to leave is, my big thing is treating folks that are 100% medically rated positively when it comes to the loan process, where that a lot of people are still not getting it right. I know there's folks working to lobby to change the way that everybody looks at this, but you shouldn't be charged for, if you're 100% exempt, you shouldn't be set. You shouldn't have an escrow account that's set up with a payment to begin with, and then leave it up to you to get that taken off after the fact.
yeah.
Because the way that the law reads is that you're going to be immediately available to have that exemption. There's no wait or anything. It's right then. And I've had lenders that say, well, we can't do it that way because they don't have that exemption. Yeah, but that doesn't hold up, because the minute they own the home, they have the exemption available to them. Let's just do the
Hmm.
paperwork in advance, treat them the
Yep.
right way in advance, and it really greatly improves their buying power, and it really greatly decreases the amount of stress and hoops that they have to jump through. So that's my biggest thing is even in vetted VA, sometimes people lose sight of that and will say the lender didn't do it that way. Well, if the lender's not doing it that way, fix the lender,
Yeah.
or don't use that lender if they won't be fixed. And that's my biggest thing is, I really want people to do that right and be treated right that way, because I've helped people that got, maybe when they were dealing with me, they were at 90%. And then after the fact, they finally got whatever it took to get them to 95% and 100%. And they call me back, and sometimes it's taken 4 or 5 months for them to get that all situated within their actual mortgage account. And there's no reason that you should allow people that are already at 100% to be treated that way, to have that
That's right.
additional hassle. If they're 100%, they've already had a burden that they're bearing, etc. And they shouldn't have that extra burden that just doesn't have to be that way. So that's my
Yeah.
big thing. Leave
I
that. We're
love
here
that.
to help.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Randy Teakell is, like we said at the outset, he's in Texas. He knows the state of Texas. He loves the state of Texas. He does all sorts of things in Texas. And I think he travels outside Texas once in a while. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
When the dogs let
But
me do.
yeah, where do you take them most outside of Texas?
Primarily Texas, but we go to Oklahoma, Louisiana,
Okay.
from time to time. Yeah.
You get out there, go birding and do some other things.
Yep.
Well, if you
Kansas.
want to reach out, what's that?
We go pheasant hunting in Kansas.
Oh, there you go. That
Yep.
sounds like a good time too.
Yep.
Well, if you want more information on Randy Teakell, you'll find his contact information and more about him in the show notes. You'll also find him on vetva.com. And if you click on Texas map, he will show up there in the lenders section. He is here, but you'll also find him on Facebook. That guy is, Facebook is just his other email. It's just a way to see him and get connected with him and be a part of his life, and he'll be a part of yours and answer questions wholly. So you can find him there anytime. But Randy, thank you so much for joining me on this. Thanks for being a part. And you said not to say anything bad, but I'm going to say all the good things. Even because of Randy Teakell, Vetted VA has 2 extraordinary employees as well, thanks to him just knowing what we needed and saying, "Hey, did you meet my son-in-law? He edits video."
Mhm.
And then, by the way, my daughter is really, really good at administrative assistant, and she is, by the way,
Right.
an amazing executive assistant. So
Yep.
she does a
Absolutely.
great job.
Absolutely.
All
Honored
right,
to
so
know.
see, I can still brag on her. She's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, Randy. Well, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Vetted VA podcast, Your Journey Home. We hope this information has been helpful, enjoyable, engaging, supportive. But here's the biggest call to action for you. If you are a veteran, a service member, a family member of the same, and you have earned or have access to the VA home loan eligibility and have questions, please feel free to join us at Vetted VA on Facebook. Go to facebook.com, search for the Vetted VA group, and you'll find it. Answer some of the questions to enter, and once you do that, you're good to go. If you're a professional, a real estate agent, lender, insurance agent, you know the drill. Well, as a professional, we'd love to have you join the professionals only group. We do all the same information, but at a little bit different scope because, well, of how you're coming into that information to support yourself and the other consumers that you work with. So please join Vetted VA on Facebook or Vetted VA for Professionals on Facebook. Follow us on TikTok, wherever you can find it. And as always, all the white papers, the resources, the documents, and the training, the free training courses are available at vettedva.com. You'll find them all there. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. My email is nathan@vettedva.com. I'm the COO, and I'm ready to help. Glad you tuned in for this episode, and looking forward to bringing you the next one. Take care.